The Soviet Union will be pleased to offer amnesty to your wayward vassal.
The Soviet Union? I thought you guys broke up.
Yes, that's what we wanted you to think.
Must crush capitalism.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to What the Hell Happened to Them? Jack Attacks the Cast. That's right, this season, Jack Nicholson. I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill, and joining me on the line is not a member of the Communist Party, but I wouldn't out him if he were, Joe Vekeman.
Hi, I'm not, I promise. What?
No judgments here, right, Lev? No judgments. But you know what? Lev is reminding me that you can email the cast at whathappenedtothem@gmail.com. And because we're not in a communist paradise, we need to have sponsors to keep the show up. And our sponsor this week is, Kidneys, the best juvenile knee replacement this side of the Mississippi. Not sure if that's my side or your side, Joe. Running, jumping, swimming, you can do anything with a kidney. That's kidney with a K. Oh, a second one, the one right in the middle there. It's a pun. All right, Joe, what movie are we doing this week?
We watched Reds from 1981, the Warren Beatty film.
That is true, and in solidarity with the Russians, he made a movie aggressively long.
Aggressively long.
He made a 200-minute movie.
Yeah.
200 minutes.
Wow.
And maybe with the way inflation is these days, 200 doesn't sound like a lot, but having just sat through it, it is.
It really is.
It is.
It's a long movie. Probably the reason why I've been putting it off for the last 4 years.
Yeah. Well, but Joe, you got an intermission in the middle, so you could just watch one part, and then you got two movies, really. It's just two movies.
Yeah, I think I like the first part better.
Yeah, the whole movie for me had what I'm now going to call the Postman Paradox.
Are we talking about the Kevin Costner Postman, or are we talking about the Jack Nicholson movie we just watched?
Yeah, the just one we just watched now. Because
okay.
I've now run into the same problem where if you had broken down into individual parts, you got a lot of good stories going on here.
Yeah.
But you said, what if we just jammed them all together and loosely tied them with this whatever love story? Man, I'm less interested in this now. Somehow you had a lot of good ingredients and you smushed them together, and none of it really mattered. It was a big bowl of nothing.
Yeah.
Right? You got this October Revolution. Yeah. I could be into that. There's some cool stuff in there. Oh, you've got muckraking in the progressive America. I could be into that. You've got the struggling socialist party in America. Okay, there's something there maybe. A young, grumpy Eugene O'Neill in this perhaps love triangle thing, trying to set off on his career. Okay,
it's definitely a love triangle.
We're stretching there. A communist diplomat in a foreign country getting ignored by America. Yep, there's something to be said there. And yet you put them all together, I don't give one crap. Oh, this character study about a woman, a young artist that's more into the idea of being an artist than doing the art. Yeah, great, okay, we got something there. No. Shove them all together, put a stupid love story bow on it, the end. Somehow it's a sweeping historical epic? No. Get out of here.
Wow. So down on the movie.
Yeah.
I liked it. Nah. I just said it was too long.
I was what I'm now going to refer to as Top Gun bored.
What? Top Gun bored?
Top Gun bored.
Well, don't say that in the company of Warren Beatty.
Yes. Say, listen, it's no Dick Tracy. He's fine with that, at least. If I like Dick Tracy, I can hate everything else. That's his stance.
So ask me about the plot synopsis.
No, I don't. I just gave you the plot synopsis. All right, what's the plot? What's the real plot synopsis?
You're a real grump today. An account of the revolutionary years of the legendary American journalist John Reed, who shared his adventurous professional life with his radical commitment to the socialist revolution in Russia, his dream of spreading its principles among the members of the American working class, and his troubled romantic relationship with the writer Louise Bryant. Not since Gone with the Wind has there been a great romantic epic like it. What do you think of that tagline?
Whatever. I don't care.
Wow. Can I give you my favorite fact about this movie?
Sure.
Jack Nicholson and Warren Beatty have dated at least 12 of the same women.
Yeah, how many of them were in this movie?
There's just so many good things about this that I gotta tell you about.
I like to think that Warren Beatty and Jack Nicholson kept dating the same woman, and at some point Warren Beatty's putting this together and thought, it'll be some good meta casting.
Yeah.
Warren Beatty not looking unrecognizable compared to when I saw him in The Fortune. He was doing his best Bruce Dern impersonation in this movie.
Yeah, he looks a lot older in this, right?
Yeah.
It's only a couple of years.
Yeah, no.
It's like 4 years later.
He's trying to get in character.
And they've definitely been shooting this movie for like 2 years when they're making it.
Yeah, he goes from The Shining to this. Jack Nicholson's got no time. I guess he's barely in this.
Oh, Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
I will state, for the record, is at his hottest right now, at this moment, in 1981.
His hottest in Hollywood or his hottest acting-wise?
Just the character he's playing. Like, this is like a hot character. He's got a little mustache. He's got his like white sweaters, like little fleece sweaters.
You're into 1920s Jack Nicholson?
So handsome.
So what are you saying? That you, gulp, want his bod?
You don't think so? I think this is like peak Jack hotness. And he's kind of being a little like seductive too, because he's just like in the role. I like him in this.
Okay, yeah, it's a perfectly fine role for Jack Nicholson. It's right up his alley. I get why Warren Beatty casted him.
And if you cut out like everything else except for his parts, and like it's a really good role. I like it a lot.
Warren Beatty's pitching Jack the movie. He's like, listen, Jack, I know it didn't go so well last time, but we're gonna make it work this time. We got it.
He did make it work. 12 Oscar nominations. That's crazy.
Yeah, I am not surprised. This Oscar grabby.
Warren Beatty began filming interviews with the witnesses in the early 1970s.
Well, you'd have to make sure they're going to be around.
Okay, this is another great one. The role of Eugene O'Neill was always intended for Jack Nicholson, because according to Warren Beatty, he believed that Nicholson was the only person who could, quote, could take his girl, Diane Keaton, away from him.
Even in the early 1970s, before everybody really knew who Jack Nicholson was?
I guess so. Well, I mean, they're not shooting this until like 79, so.
But I just want to know how far Always goes back to, because if he's starting, in theory, making this movie in the early 70s, is that when Always counts, or does Always counts when your script is locked? Like, what's the timeline here?
I'm gonna tell you, I don't think the script was ever locked because there was times on the set where there was not a complete script.
Sure.
They're just like, okay.
Listen, for a lot of films, I wouldn't poo-poo it. What's the budget on this film?
Good question. What is the budget on this film? I've got a lot of things that I want to tell you about. So the budget on this film was $32 million. All
right. Well, when your script is $32 million, you probably should have a locked script. When you're, BBS and you're dicking around with like $200,000, fine. This movie, you probably wanted to get all your ducks in a row.
Big box office hit for this, $40 million.
Wow, they did it. They I don't even know how much of a profit this made.
Not much.
Depends on how well it did you didn't have DVDs actually back then. You had VHS though, right? When did VHS come out? Mid-80s? Yeah, you might not have done so well.
85 or something.
Uh-oh.
84. The picture utilized 2.5 million feet of film. Some estimates put it at 3 million feet. This equates to about 2.5 weeks of screen time. 1 million feet are said to have been printed. The weight of the film stock shipped from England to the U.S. is believed to have weighed about 5 tons.
I mean, I bet a lot of that is that like the finished film print, or is that like all the film that was shot?
All the film that was shot.
Okay, well, you have all these interviews, these witnesses. That makes sense to me. You don't know what you're looking for yet. You probably built your script based on what they said.
So the scene where Gene Hackman tells Warren Beatty that Diane Keaton has lost her job took exactly 100 takes to shoot. Hackman vowed that he would not shoot a 101st take, and he did not. And just want to point out that it is noted that Gene Hackman worked for nothing for this movie. He didn't get paid. He was doing a favor for Warren Beatty.
Yeah, I was surprised to see him to get Welcome to Mooseport when he popped in here. I don't even remember seeing him in the opening credits. He worked for free? Why would you work? He just really believed in this film, did he?
He was doing a favor for Warren Beatty because Beatty got him into Bonnie and Clyde.
So I have no idea why that scene would need 100 takes.
Yeah, another Warren Beatty
was not a
shot.
particularly challenging scene. Not a great deal goes on during it. It really is to just give information and thus spur on Warren Beatty to do the thing he does. Why? What did you see in there that needed 100 takes?
I didn't see anything that needed 100 takes. I think this guy is just very particular
Warren
with
Beatty
his
fancying
details.
himself a Kubrick of sorts.
Yeah, I think he's just like, let's do it again. I don't like that one.
He doesn't even give you a no. He's just like, again, Gene.
Yeah, that wasn't right. That wasn't right. Why don't you try it like this?
Why don't you try it just barely different enough to register on film, please?
Jack Nicholson once got so frustrated at having to do so many takes of a scene with Diane Keaton that he snapped at Warren Beatty and said, "Just tell me what the fuck you want and I'll do it."
But he wasn't snapping at Kubrick.
I mean,
just seems like a double standard.
Can you imagine doing that twice, year after year? You're just like, okay, I'm going to the set with Kubrick. Now I'm going to set with Beatty. Why am I doing these over? This never happened before. We used to get these done like that.
There is a time and a place
for Corman pictures
for draining your actors. I will tell you though, this character, Jack Nicholson's character, I don't know why you'd want to drain, quote unquote, your actor. And if that was your goal, you didn't do it because Jack Nicholson did have quite a bit of energy going there.
Yeah, this isn't a situation where Fincher is draining the life out of Jake Gyllenhaal to get him the best takes out of him in Zodiac.
Well, there are just some actors, perhaps Jake Gyllenhaal, I don't know, that try a little too hard. And so you drain them so the only thing they have energy for is to just exist. Yeah. Jack Nicholson, coming from this Brando school, probably doesn't need that. So Kubrick's probably doing it to actually drive him crazy. Fine. Even if Warren Beatty was doing that here, Jack Nicholson had too much energy for the draining to work, and at some point, you probably stop Warren Beatty. You only have $32 million, apparently.
Yeah. Elaine May and Robert Towne did touch-up and polish work on the script. Did you know that? Isn't that nice?
Yeah. Now, be hard to tell over the course of 200 pages.
The film was originally titled Comrades.
Yeah, I don't know if either one's... The movie's in a tough spot where we're heading into the Reagan years. The hippie trend has finally gotten so overbearing on most Americans, they have now gone the complete other way. And your film, technically, anti-communist film, but you sure aren't marketing it that way, and the title and poster probably are not giving off that incidence. You're not pleasing the communist viewers, the leftist viewers, we'll call them, and you are and you are sort of scaring away all the other viewers. Thank God you have so many stars in here.
Yeah, so when editing and post-production was completed in December 1981, it was 2 years since production had begun and 3 years since pre-production had commenced. It was also rumored that Jack Nicholson and Diane Keaton were having an affair. This turned out to be false, because Warren Beatty and Diane Keaton were seeing each other on the movie.
Well, maybe
It was tearing them apart.
maybe in 20 years, Jack Nicholson will finally get his chance to date another woman Warren Beatty dated.
Jesus Christ. I hope not. Oh, I didn't know this. So 2 years later, Jack Nicholson appeared in Terms of Endearment opposite Warren Beatty's sister. Did you know who Warren Beatty's sister is?
I did not know he had a sister.
Shirley MacLaine.
No, would not have guessed that.
I didn't know that. That's nice. That's a new thing I just learned.
Steel Magnolia fame.
Did you see? Yeah. Did you see Mr. Feeney?
Yes, Mr. Feeney showing up as the
He's great.
head of the Communist Party in America. Only in America would the Communist Party hate Bolshevik supporters.
Yeah.
Only here. Perhaps better known as G. Gordon Liddy from the TV film Blind Ambition.
G. Gordon Liddy.
That's right.
Yeah.
That was one of our Watergate films.
This was originally rated R by the MPAA, but was don't do that.
I don't know why I did that.
But was
It's very out of
available to
character
PG
for me.
uncut. That was very funny.
What do you say? So it's rated R, but then they changed something?
To PG. No, they didn't change anything.
They changed it to PG. Why? How did it change so quickly?
It got a PG because Beatty doesn't fucking he puts his foot down, and then they're like, okay, well, we're just gonna have to step aside then.
Why did they want to rate it R? What was the R thing? That suddenly wasn't a problem.
They curse a lot in this movie.
Do they? Man, see, I'm so desensitized to it, I don't even notice.
Yeah, they drop quite a few F-bombs in it. There's just for some romance.
Warren Beatty's like, hey, listen, I've got a family film here about the communist revolution in America, okay? You better let the 10-year-olds in.
Okay, I got one more thing.
Yeah.
With this film, Warren Beatty became the third person to be nominated for Academy Awards in the three categories of Best Actor, Best Director, and Best Original Screenplay, in a film which was also nominated for the Best Picture. Earlier people to do so had been Woody Allen for Annie Hall and Orson Welles for Citizen Kane.
Yeah. Well, I hope, not to sound mean, I hope it won no Academy Awards. How many Academy Awards did it win, Joe?
How many did it win? Let's see. Beatty was awarded the Best Director. Maureen Stapleton won Best Supporting Actress. I think that the big picture that year, like the big winner was Chariots of Fire.
Ugh.
So let me just.
There's no winner. There's no winner that year. That's all bad.
The Oscars from 1981, which were held on March 29th, 1982, were Reds got 12 nominations. It was watched by 46.2 million people. Isn't that
Those
crazy?
days are over.
Yeah, those days are very, very, very much over. Okay, here we go. So, Best Director, Best Supporting Actress. I think that might be it. They just won 2 awards.
So what were the other directors?
The other directors that Beatty was going against, Louis Malle, Atlantic City, Hugh Hudson, Chariots of Fire, Mark Rydell on Golden Pond, and this name I can't really read. It's kind of a big name. Steven Spielberg for Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Wow, that is an aggressively 80s Best Picture list. I couldn't yawn loud enough.
On Golden Pond, really?
Yeah. I tell you, that all those movies, other than Raiders of the Lost Ark, all those movies are for old people. They are all old people movies. They are either about old people or feel-good old people films.
On Golden Pond was nominated for Best Picture.
On Golden Pond and Atlantic City. Yeah.
Best Actor, Best Actress. Holy shnikes.
Were those the 5 Best Picture noms, too?
Best Picture noms. Yep, Reds, Atlantic City, Chariots of Fire, On Golden Pond, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Wow.
Yep, the 80s have come, everybody. They're here. Buckle up. Gonna get crappy fast.
What was the year before? The 1980s.
1980-aught.
Let's see. Okay. So your best pictures that year were Tess.
I have no idea what that is.
Okay,
Tess.
nearby. The Elephant Man.
Yep, surprise nomination. Mm-hmm.
Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yeah.
Raging Bull.
Okay, all right, good film.
And winning that year, Robert Redford's Ordinary People.
It's got Mary Tyler Moore in it, but still, meh.
Okay, so Tess is a Roman Polanski film. Your best director nominations are Roman Polanski, Martin Scorsese, David Lynch, Richard Rush. Remember Richard Rush?
Yeah.
We've done a few of his
We
movies.
have.
And Robert Redford, who won.
Well, then I am surprised I have not heard of Tess. A Polanski film.
Yeah.
But, so, yeah, the clearly some 70s films trickled in here. 70s styled films and Raging Bull, probably Tess, trickled in here. But then you get, Ordinary People. Robert Redford, huh? The Academy's just like, hey, our actors are directors now. Let's just vote for those guys. We like them. They're our friends.
Well, I feel like Redford hadn't won anything in the 70s or the 60s. So, and he's never won an acting Oscar for anything.
That's crazy. Never?
Yeah.
Oh.
So they're like, hey, I guess we'll just give you this this trophy right here that says, I think that's his first directing effort too. So they're like, well, you did a good job.
Yeah, so that
people move.
transition year, a little bit of old, a little bit of new. Even Postman Rings Twice, a little bit of old, a little bit of new. This year, this 1981 year, that's hard 80s all the way.
We're getting into the 80s now. It's real. I can see what you mean.
Yes.
I can see the big change now.
Thank you.
The 80s movies that I watch, I have a good time watching them. They're a little against the grain, I feel like, in the sense that they're not highlighted by the Academy. Like I'm talking De Palma and Scorsese, with the exception of Raging Bull. I believe most of 80s Scorsese is just kind of like,
Yeah.
don't look over here. It really is. It's like, even like the Last Temptation, I think, was kind of ignored.
Well, that movie is effing kooky, but the subject matter itself, like he kind of is pushed into making a film on those lines in that decade.
Yeah, I agree. 80s are weird. I know what you mean now.
Get him out of here.
Because I was really looking forward to this. I'm like, oh wow, a big, like, sweeping epic. And I'm like, the door creaked open a few times because I was just like...
It definitely swept away any awakeness I had.
I will say, I did enjoy the editing for like the first like 40 minutes, like when they're kind of just like going back and forth, like seeing, like he's like, gotta catch the taxi, gotta keep catching the taxi every like 5 seconds, like they'd be just transitioning, like, oh, he's leaving again, and she just kind of be like sitting there with his friends, like listening to conversations, just kind of being ignored. And I'm like, oh, and it was like, but it was very quick and it was fat, like the pacing was very well done. And then it just kind of drops off and it's just like, now we're gonna do this thing.
Oh, by the way, we're this movie now. What?
Yeah.
Pick a lane film.
It did feel like a bunch of movies just kind of smushed together.
Yes.
Like
sweeping,
like we were saying at the beginning.
Sweeping. Epic. Yeah. Just got to cram a bunch, that's what we do. Just they're all shoved in there together. It's a big hodgepodge of a film. No, I agree with your editing thing. The editing in the beginning was actually so fast, I was just like, we're running out of movie.
I know.
Little did I know,
Yeah,
in their back pocket were 4 more films ready to go. So, of course, they could speed through the first one.
Yeah. I'm glad you could see that, too.
Yeah. And I wasn't... Sometimes they did some interesting editing with these talking heads where, like, they would do something. The heads would be like, I don't know why X happened. Or some people think they were having a menage a trois, but I don't... And so there's, like, a contradicting in history here. What I failed to figure out was what it was adding.
I agree.
I was uncertain what the overall... I haven't letterboxed it yet, but I did just watch the Elvis film. And they too have a narrator, we'll say, right? This Tom Hanks character.
Yes, Colonel Tom Parker.
The quote-unquote villain of the film is the narrator telling us the real quote-unquote story of Elvis.
Uh-huh.
An interesting idea. and I thought could go some interesting places, and then ultimately didn't take any thematic use of it.
You watched 3.5 hours of Reds, and then you watched 3 hours of Elvis.
I watched. How long is Elvis? 2.5 hours? Is it actually 3 hours?
2:45.
I watched 2 hours and 25 minutes of Elvis last week, and then had to leave suddenly for something that came up, so I didn't get to finish the last 20 minutes. Unfortunately, the movie's last 20 minutes has 11 minutes of credits.
Yeah.
So had I known I really only had 9 minutes to squeeze in, I would have worked much harder to finish that movie in proper time.
Yeah,
what I come back to is Elvis leaving a limousine with his wife, and she's like, "Oh, let's get you to rehab. This isn't going well." And he's just like, maybe. And then he leaves. And then there's like a big song, and then the movie's over. And if I had known that's all I had left, I would have just finished it.
Patrick, you basically just had to watch the fat Elvis part, which is kind of the best part of the movie.
Fat.
Yeah, he's a little fat.
Well, he was like a little chunky. He's like a newborn baby chunky, you know?
He's a chubby Elvis. Yeah.
He's not super fat. It's not cartoonishly
well, because Austin
fat.
Butler needs to win his Oscar that he's...
Yeah, he's not a woman. He doesn't ug up to win his Oscar, all right? He has to look young and handsome and look and sound like the person he is. That's all he's got to do.
Well, he does the Elvis voice now whenever he accepts any awards.
All right, well, so what is he? They give him an award and he's like, thank you very much. And everybody laughs and laughs and...
Oh, Mama, thank you very much.
I don't remember who he's up against. I wasn't blown away.
He's up against Brendan Fraser. He's up against Colin Farrell. He's up against Bill Nighy. And he's up against Paul Mescal.
Where's Paul Mescal in?
You should watch After Sun.
Oh, I do want to watch After Sun.
It's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen 2 of those films.
Did you see Living?
No, I don't think anyone has seen Living. I feel bad for Bill Nighy. I cannot imagine he's going to win.
Do you know what that movie is, though?
Yeah, you told me when we did the Oscar thing. It's Ikaru. Yeah, an Ikaru remake came out, and I didn't even know. That's how unknown this movie is.
Very little tiny. I think it's a Sony Pictures classic.
Yeah.
Very tiny little movie.
It feels like a Sony's Picture classic. So everybody's gushing about Austin Butler, and I go, Austin Butler has the advantage where he has to be a person we all know. So we're not actually looking for, is he acting super well? We're actually looking for, does he sound like the person that I know?
Yeah. He's got the thing where I guess he was on a Disney show when he was younger, so all his fans have like grown up with him.
Oh, really? He was? Okay. Well, they're not Academy voters, so they don't matter.
Disney show, I think, or maybe he was on a CW show or something. He was on something when he was younger.
Something voters aren't watching.
Yeah, but like he's got a big following.
Yeah, well, no wonder I've never heard of him. He's on young people things. Now, if he had been in an episode of All in the Family, I probably would have heard of him.
Well,
if he had been in The Good Wife,
All in the Family,
I bet you I would have heard of him.
If he was in an episode of All in the Family, he would be like 70 or 80 years old.
He'd be Tom
now.
Hanks. Yeah.
Reds.
How did we get onto the
Oscars? We were talking about Oscars.
Just
stuff.
bitching about the Oscars. Yeah. Sounds like me.
They're next weekend.
Yeah, 8 already.
Or 2 weekends.
Oh yeah,
the 12th,
I guess so.
Whatever the 12th is.
I've not been able to find To Leslie anywhere where I don't have to pay money for it. I want to watch it, but I don't want to.
Yeah.
I'm in a tough spot.
I wouldn't.
And I can't find Fable. Is Fableman streaming anywhere?
You gotta rent it.
I think Fableman's is my last one. I'm not watching Avatar 2 under protest. That's it, though.
You shouldn't watch Avatar unless you can watch it on high frame rate in 3D. And if you don't want to watch it that way, then it's not worth it.
I'm not doing it. It's not worth it in the theater. I'm not for free with my AMC ticket. I'm not watching it.
I think if you're not into the experience, then you're not going to get anything else from it. Like if you're not just like, oh, I'm excited to go see a 3D movie in high frame rate, and I've heard it looks kind of cool, then if that doesn't interest you, then there'll be nothing else to grab you in that movie.
Perfect. I'm done with the high frame rate's gotta go.
Well, hold up, because there's only been a couple of movies that have been in real high frame rate, and you would have had to see them in like certain theaters. Now, I don't think you've seen a high frame rate movie.
I have, because now I'm noticing it looks different, and I wish it did not. It's like the stupid TVs now. When I go into a goddamn bar.
Why are you so blurry? You're going into a bar? What are you going to a bar for?
I'm an alcoholic. Yeah, and everything's moving too smoothly.
Yeah, well, that's the motion smoothing, though.
Get this out of here. It makes everything look fake. How crazy is that?
Agree.
I know it's different, Joe. I know it's a different technology. We already did the frame rate the eye season. Why are we doing it faster? Oh, it's to make our crappy CGI look less crappy. I'm not encouraging this.
It's to make action scenes look less blurry, yeah.
Commercial blur is good. Okay.
Yeah.
Joe.
You're blurry
I think this
right
movie
now.
does not... I don't know how to fix the camera, Joe. I don't know.
It's okay.
I think this movie does not pass the
There you
Bechdel
are.
test.
That's funny.
But there is a scene near the end where Diane Keaton finally makes it to Russia and makes it with, I'm presuming, Maureen Stapleton.
Yes.
And they're like both being like, hey, you know what? You're better than I thought you were. Warren Beatty's like kind of mentioned offhandedly, not by name. I don't even remember if it's by pronoun, but I don't remember. So it might pass the Bechdel test. I'm not sure.
195 minutes. I am going to say no.
Just no? I don't know.
No.
Put both sounds in just in case. I'm not certain. I don't remember. I have never heard of these two people. Have you heard of these two people? The two main people, whatever their names were.
John Reed and Louise Bryant?
Yeah.
No, I have not heard of them. This is my first time.
Yeah. I've obviously heard of Eugene O'Neill. But I heard of some of the other random people, too, that came up in my history class at some point. Like Lincoln Stephers. I know who Lincoln Stephers is. Did not know who the main character of this movie is, which is an interesting marketing choice.
Apparently, before Warren Beatty decided to step in and just do the lead role himself, he was considering for a very long time to bring John Lithgow in.
Yeah, that could have worked. I'd buy that.
Yeah, he looked more like John Reed than Warren Beatty does.
But then Warren Beatty said, fuck it, getting the Oscars.
Yeah, fuck it, I want it. This is me.
I told people all the whole time I didn't want to do it, but secretly, I wanted to do it.
He's a little bit of an egomaniac.
Let me tell you another story that happened in that class where I learned about Lincoln Stephers.
Lincoln Stephers.
You know the poster that they all have? This, like, IWW is coming?
Yep.
That poster was in our history book in 9th grade.
Ooh.
9th grade.
That's
all
cool.
right? And I said, what does IWW mean, teacher? Older teacher, presumably with a master's degree, because you have to have it in the state we grew up in. And she said, World War I. To which I said, the I is in the front. And she went, oh, well, back then they called it the First World War. So that's why I was in the weird order. To which I then thought, so in the year 1916, they knew there was going to be a second one. To which she said, yeah, that's how they did things back then. So I know a couple weeks ago I may have sounded like a crazy person when I was complaining about the Gerald Ford Speaker of the House thing. All right, but I have a long history of teachers filling my head with crap and no one holding them accountable.
That's very funny.
Everybody in the class was like, yeah, World War I makes sense. I go, no, it doesn't.
That was the First World War.
It doesn't. Listen, audience at home, it stands for the industrial workers of the world, okay? It was much harder to Google back then. It actually wasn't. Everybody had computers but me, because I live with old people. But yeah, here's my point.
Yeah, it was that same boat.
So I still hold a grudge all these years later.
I would definitely, too. That's...
Yeah, the USSR stands for United Soviet something of Russia. I'm tired of all this. The VAPs also had the USSR in high school. It was the mid-2000s. The ship had sailed on the USSR, school.
Thank you, Warren Beatty. Thank you for teaching us.
All right. In a film in a film about, powerful, informative, inspiring socialist Americans, somehow we still ended up validating and valuing the rugged American individualism and traditional American values. Perhaps I will point you to the young upstart Diane Keaton fuming about becoming somebody's wife and not wanting to just be someone's girlfriend and wanting to have her own identity and career. And yet we get an hour into the movie and suddenly she's got a doghouse and got a fence and she's happy to be married and in this traditional gender dynamics and is the homemaker and isn't really writing anymore. And I go, took you an hour to throw that out of the way?
Yeah.
And then the revolution happens and looks glorious and I go, okay, all right, bold movie. And then by the end we look at the, internal bureaucrats of the Soviet Republic and the Maureen Stapleton's like, they've ruined it. They've ruined the communist movement. And it's all true, but they really wanted to jam that in there at the end. That was the ending was weird. He has that big battle scene on the train at the end in the Middle East, and it looks like he's running away from the Russia train. I might be misinterpreting that scene, which is a great reason to not give him a Best Directing Oscar. But
wow.
Then he's just back on the train. But I also wonder if they just cut out 20 minutes of film. They were like, this movie's got to end. We're way over 3 hours. The movie's got to be over, right? Let's just cut
these people need to get home and have dinner. Let's get them home. It's Christmas.
And then she finds him, and then he's dead, and then the movie's over. And I thought, I don't understand what the point of this movie was.
Wow.
Too many points. I don't understand them. I don't know.
Yeah, what's the bottom line, right?
You had these talking heads here. You spent a significant amount of time with them. Presumably they have some thematic value. I can't tell because your movie is too much noise. It's too much happening here.
You're really against the Reds.
I'm anti-red, apparently. Call me the Whoack because I'm getting rid of all the Reds out there. Huh? Little highbrow humor for you out there? Don't nod your head at me, Lev. Come on. All right, you want to do some rock watching?
My name is Kid Rock.
Yeah, rock watching.
Yeah, all right. Season 3, episode 12. According to you, Joe, we're almost at the end here.
Yeah, I got one more after
this. Yes. So the president of America has sent a backup diplomat to fix the coffee trade that Dwayne Johnson has already screwed up. And it's Randall Parks.
Fucking storyline.
It's Randall Parks' nemesis, his morning show co-host. In this alternative future, Randall Park hosts a morning show like Regis and Kathy Lee.
Who is it?
I don't remember who it is. I don't know if it's a real actress or if it's character they made. I don't remember. She was in like the first episode, and then I haven't heard from her since. Thank God the show told me over and over again who it was to remind me.
It just feels like they could have done something cool with that, and they kind of...
I don't think it's a real person. I think it's an actress they have playing somebody else. But I don't know.
Okay.
It might be another former Disney star person I've never heard of. Who's to say? Well, anyway, last episode or some episode recently, the Prime Minister had explained that her family had started a coffee business, and that's why coffee was so important to her. And so The Rock is reminded of his own parents' business when they had their rival wrestling promotion with the grandmothers. Well, they've decided to play into the rivalry now that they've buried the hatchet and to make this rivalry storyline thing. You know, where the two leagues were going to have their wrestlers fight each other, and so they had a lot of promos where they were, whatever. They were playing it up the storyline. They had like one wrestling match with one promotion, and then people from the other promotion like snuck into the wrestling match and like beat them up and began the rivalry. So there you go, right? That's some standard wrestling shenanigans that happens, right?
Oh, yeah.
Well, anyway, we have what I think it's technically Teen Rock actor, but I think it's still Young Rock age-wise, because he had the growth spurt, you may remember.
Oh, yes.
Right, when he's sneaking his friends in to see Blue Velvet. Because it looks very sexy to them. Well, the plot of the story, I guess, is The Rock wants to help, but his parents don't take him seriously because he's still a kid, even though he looks like Teen Rock. But his grandmother believes in him. And so they're having this big tribute match to his grandfather. It's like a memorial wrestling thing. And so he the championship belt that was once worn by the grandfather is now up for grabs, and The Rock goes in, opens the ceremony by bringing it to the ring and like offering up for the prize. And he's like feeling very proud of his heritage and his family, his lineage there, his wrestling lineage there.
Yeah, the bloodline.
And then the rest of the plot is the bad guy promoter that nobody likes switches at the last minute that he's gonna win when it was supposed to be one of the other wrestlers that was like a mentee of the grandfather.
Yeah.
And like that was gonna be the whole thing, and everybody was mad about it. But then the Rock beats him up because of it in the locker room, and his parents yell at him, but they all kind of agree with him, and then they bond over how much they hate this other guy. And you think, oh, that's kind of a feel-good story. They kind of found each other, and you know what? But then the story ends with, oh, by the way, my parents were never able to capitalize on the wrestling boom of the 80s, so their business went out of business. And it's like, what?
Yeah, because McMahon bought up all the territories.
Yeah, you're slipping that in on them. But anyway, The Rock's lesson is to strike while the iron's hot, which is technically why The Rock brings up his parents' business failing. But the whole episode is not about his parents' business failing. It is just a throwaway line he narrates at the end of the episode. So that now, because he's trying to convince her to strike while the iron's hot, he's hoping she will do some new trade deal or something. I don't know.
Probably The Rock has like a million businesses going at the same time, because he's like, gonna strike while the iron's hot. I'm not gonna be hot forever.
I'm glad you brought up his million businesses, because we've got another football round the world update. Football round the world. So the XFL had its week 2. The Battlehawks got the Thursday night game. That's the team I follow. I will tell you, they once again looked horrible, and once again won in the last minutes of the game somehow, pulling a come-behind victory out of their butts. But what I noticed this time was all the sponsors on the side of the arena, the stadium. Zoa, his tequila. It's all Rock products.
Rock products.
It's all Rock stuff. Rock sent out an annoying tweet. The quarterback of the Battlehawks, who has now drawn a lot of attention, looking terrible for 50 minutes and then leading his team to the end, and suddenly now he's a great quarterback. He used to be a quarterback in the NFL and could have been a backup quarterback this year for $6 million. A backup quarterback, likely to play no games. And instead is now working for like $50,000.
He gets to play games.
Because he said he wanted his children to watch him play. He wanted to create those memories for his children. And everybody's like, oh, what a great guy. Well, The Rock has to chime in here with his own stupid thing. And he's like, I couldn't agree with him more. I would have done the very blah, blah, blah. Now, Rock, you left the CFL. You gave up.
Yeah.
You didn't even bother. Don't you tell me you were going to blah. Don't you tell me this now.
Yeah, The Rock would rather, instead of playing, he'd rather just be making deals and shaking hands.
Shaking hands, smiling for the camera, making money, doing not much.
If The Rock wanted to really play, he would have been in WrestleMania this year, facing off against his cousin Roman Reigns. But
which you hinted at in last season.
Yeah, I know, but his whole thing this time is like, oh, I'm not in good enough shape to do that. And I'm like, dude, you're not going to be in better shape in another year when you're older.
And I don't buy that anyway. All I have to, every fucking week, a new story comes in my news feed about, look at how crazy The Rock's workout routine is. And, Rock has to eat 800 pancakes to keep his calories up. And, I don't buy it. You can't push your brand to be how hard you work out and how great of shape you're in, and then you can't say this. You don't get to say that at the same time. No.
And you know what?
What?
Dave Bautista?
Yeah.
A much better actor than The Rock. A much better, he chooses his projects more interestingly. He is older than The Rock. And you know what? He looks like he's in better shape than The Rock. I just watched Knock at the Cabin. He looks great.
I will not say he's a better actor. I will say
Excuse me?
I will say he does pick more interesting roles. I will not say The Rock is a better actor. I will say what I said probably a year ago when the Dave Bautista's tried to start a feud. The differences in your acting strengths are so minimal, don't bother. It doesn't matter. You're basically the same.
I think Dave Bautista is a much better actor than The Rock. Am I wrong?
Yes.
I'm wrong?
I
What
would
does
say
The
you're
Rock
wrong.
bring to it? What does The Rock bring?
It's not what The Rock brings. It's that Dave Bautista just isn't that strong of an actor.
Did you see Knock at the Cabin?
I have not seen Knock on the Cabin yet. I do plan to see
He's good.
it. I have
He's
seen
very good.
plenty of other Dave Bautista things. I don't expect I'm going to get much more than I did in other films. I'm not
you see
saying
Stuber?
that Dave Bautista is a bad actor.
All right, good.
I am just saying, don't think he's miles ahead of The Rock, as he likes to claim. I do think he can trick people because he's picking more interesting roles. I think other actors could do way better with them than he can.
Okay. I see your point, and I'll consider it.
But listen, I would love to dunk on The Rock and say, yeah, this other guy's better than you. I can't say that in good conscience, because
What about John Cena?
I probably not, but I have not seen John Cena in as many things. I have seen him in an episode of Psych, and that might be it.
Why? Why?
Because I watched Psych and he was in it. I don't know what to tell you.
I just thought you were like, I want to watch this random episode of Psych because John Cena's in it.
He might have been in one of the movies too at the very end, but yeah. He's one of the main characters' brothers.
I think you might get a little bit of enjoyment, and it could be a good way to check out some John Cena in HBO Max's The Peacemaker, James Gunn's TV series. I think it's like 6 episodes.
I'm not watching
and
it.
they're like,
I'm done. I'm out of superhero game. We're moving on.
it's barely a superhero
Doesn't matter.
show.
It's part of the industrial complex. I'm not encouraging it. I'm not. I'm taking a stand, Joe, for all of us. For America.
Barely a superhero show.
I'm the John Reed or whatever.
Oh,
The
wow.
anti-superhero movement.
Wow.
I will kill myself and ruin my relationship in defense of my principles.
Patrick Skeyhill, he loves Reds, doesn't like John Cena.
Yeah, so Battlehawks now 2-0. I cannot imagine whatever they're doing is sustainable. So every week I expect to come back and tell you, yeah, they lost to a real team.
Wow, so are they ahead in the league?
I mean, there's only been 2 games, and there's 8 teams. There's probably at least one other 2-0 team, maybe two, second one. There are better teams in the league. Every game we go into, it just looks like they're going to lose, and then somehow right at the very end they win, and at some point it's going to bite them in the butt.
It seems like someone's getting paid off.
Maybe. Maybe something's in the hands of Big Caw. You know, like what can you do? All right, Joe. Let's finish up with a Watergate watch.
Watergate, oh, Watergate.
Watch.
Wow, wasn't expecting that.
Well, we last couple of weeks we've been busy. I didn't get to tell you. I finished my book, my Watergate book.
Yeah, I figured.
A New History. It was very good read. I wish the ending was more padded. Basically, it's like Nixon resigns, and then like the end. I would have liked a nice little like, here's what John Dean was doing, and then G. Gordon Liddy got a weird radio show, and this guy did. Would have liked a little more of the epilogue, kind of like here's where they all are now. We got a little bit with Richard Nixon then did the Frost Nixon views, but like that was like 6 pages and then it was over.
He was played by Michael Sheen.
Yeah, very in depth. I've been asked a lot, like would I read any other future Watergate books, and it's tough because a lot of them are basically the source materials for this book. Mm-hmm. So I guess in theory I could be getting more in depth on particular things, but also they're written by the people involved, so I'm getting a lot more of a heavy-handed look, a biased look at certain events too. Where this book was very clear, like, I'm going to give you all the versions of it and then try to guess what might have actually really happened or give some theories on what could have really happened and why they would have these differing accounts. So just trying to be a little more even-handed, which I appreciated. So I don't know. I know we've got the HBO show coming out later this month in March of 2023 for future listeners.
What show? What?
We got The Plumbers, the White House Plumbers. I told you about this in the winter. It stars Woody Harrelson and the guy from Mulholland Drive that used to be married to Jennifer Aniston. He might still be, but I don't think he is.
Oh.
Justin Theroux.
Yeah. Woody Harrelson might be, like, canceled.
What? What did he do? Did he do? Is this a recent thing or is this a triangle thing?
Yeah, last week, the triangle thing.
A triangle. What is it?
Last weekend, he went off script on SNL for his monologue, and then just went like big anti-vax, like against Pfizer and Moderna and everything.
Last week? You mean like 4 days ago?
Yeah, Saturday.
Ah, jeez. Well, in the open, why is he hosting SNL? What did he do recently?
He's got the plumbers, apparently. You just told me.
I thought he would bring it up in the monologue. He's like, yeah, I'm about to do this plumber thing.
He just went off script and was just like, let me tell you something about this fucking the vaccines that are making you more sick because they're keeping people in their houses and they're all like drug cartels. And I'm like, oh, Jesus Christ.
It's keeping us in our houses? Nobody stayed in their house since 2 years ago. By the way, when they probably should have still been in their goddamn house.
I know.
What, are you just mad they make you take a COVID test when you go on a film set? Good Lord.
Yeah. I don't know.
Did like a big hook come out to try to like pull him off the stage, like a cartoony 1920s vaudeville hook?
Probably should have. Sometimes people should
actors were like, "Oh, Grandpa, you wandered away again."
What is he doing? Just stop.
Okay, I'm still gonna watch the show, but
yeah, I'm sure it's gonna be great. He's a great actor.
It does make sense why he's in the triangle, though. Now,
yeah.
Okay, we want to do last looks on this?
Last looks. Nicholson. Hot. Just a surface level. Just like.
Yeah. Who's hotter? Jack Nicholson in Reds or Dennis Quaid and Something to Talk About?
Jack Nicholson. I've never been a Dennis Quaid guy.
Well, you should go back and listen to that episode because you were all over him that day.
Was I really over that? Oh. Don't remember that. That was too long ago. That was last year.
Your tastes in men have changed since then.
Yeah.
You like him older and surlier now.
Yeah, with a mustache. And a nice little sweater.
The mustache is an 80s thing. I think
the sweater, though. The sweater looks really nice on him.
It's all about the sweater, really.
I mean, he's like in white. He's in white slacks. A white.
It's just gonna stain. And it's after Labor Day, Jack. What are you doing?
And was he drinking whiskey all the time?
Probably.
Yeah, if he spills a little bit.
He was a writer in the 20s. He was drinking a lot of
She
something.
fucking spills it on right at the beginning because she's like, when she's moving into her new house or whatever, and she's like, oh, it's going to smell like a saloon. I'll never forget that line. I don't think a saloon, I guess, 1900s, really. The saloons would be still big.
Yeah, they had saloons still.
Call it a bar.
Get out uppity on Diane's grill. Come on.
All right, what's your last looks?
My last looks? Nah.
Wow.
Nah. 80s crappy Oscar bait. Everything about the 80s and Oscar bait films are all rolled up into this, and it's interminable. The movie never ends. I was destined to not like this film. I did enjoy the Jack scenes. He does have a good energy to him when he's in the role. He's a bit scene chewy, but other than that...
Of course he is.
Perfectly fine. Any one part of this movie would have been a nice 90-minute thing by itself, but I didn't need 3 hours of 6 movies. Stop trying to make your films epic, Hollywood. You're bad at it. You're just bad at it. All right. I guess I'd like to thank our sponsors, Kidneys. Kid with a because we're knees in the word, like in the leg knee.
Yep.
Kidneys.com, kidneys with a K. And I'd like to thank Joe Vekeman for stopping by, helping us out.
Hi there.
I'd like to thank Lev Van Rensselaer, the audio maven that you are craving, keeping us sound so slippery smooth. And I am your host, Patrick Skeyhill. You can find my features, documentaries, short films, video essays, animations, behind-the-scenes footage, and so much more at QuixoticUnited.com and social media, presumably with a similar sounding name. Thank you all for listening. Joe, say goodnight.
Good night.
Well, you may have seen, I watched the Kelsey Grammer Jesus movie.
Yeah, why?
I believe I explained myself and my addictions in my letterbox back and forth with that other person.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, I had actually intended to go see the Winnie the Pooh horror film. But then AMC...
Bigger why.
Yeah, the AMC app wouldn't let me because it doesn't count. You had to pay real money. And I said, nah, I'll wait for Tubi.
Yeah, that'll definitely be on Tubi someday. That shit, I just don't get it.
So that was
Whatever.
7 o'clock Wednesday. I'm already heading to the theater. And then I thought, well, what else is playing around in? And it's all crap. It's all crap.
Yeah.
So I said,
right now.
But then I'm like, oh, the Kelsey Grammer thing is having its world premiere night. It's doing the Marvel. We're going to actually come out a day earlier and have a night showing. Mm-hmm. And I thought, all right, well, 7 o'clock, I guess that's the same time. But then I went to pick a seat, and there were like 2 seats left in the whole theater. And I said, I'm not going to that if I have to sit in a throng of people. But then it turned out there was also a bonus 7:05 screening.
Wow.
It had gotten so popular that they had to add a second, slightly later screening. That screening, 2 other people. And I thought, yes, please.
That's the way to do it.
This is great. It was 2 old people. One of them, this lady, who had like this little FDR blanket over her legs.
Wow.
Must have thought this was the funniest movie she had ever seen.
Was it funny?
No. The one credit I will give it is we got what I presume was an hour through the movie, and I had thought the movie was going to end because having seen an unfortunate amount of these types of movies, because they always lure me in with older TV stars. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't need, like, this one obviously was going to be of the subject matter it was, but sometimes, like, I saw a movie, it was called Mom's Night Out, it had Patricia Heaton, and I thought, oh, let's see what Patricia Heaton's up to these days. And then they snuck in some Jesus on me. I was like, what? I went to see old, thought it was going to be like 80 for Brady minus the Brady, just older women doing older lady stuff. No.
Yeah.
Secret Jesus movie. So I've seen a surprising amount of these. They usually have a very minimal plot where very minimal problems happen, and then the movie's over. So we got halfway through the movie, and I thought we were done, and I was like, oh, good, I get to go now. But then a whole second half of the movie happened, which on the one hand was annoying that I had more movie to go through. But on the other hand, I got like real movie things that, the things got worse for people and people started fighting with each other and we got to like the end of a second act and like it was the low point and everybody was and it didn't look like it was going to get good at the end. I was like, wow, we got like real movie parts happening here. Nicely done, film. But also like it's 2 hours. I want to go, please.
Yeah.
It was actually longer. It was like 2 hours and 15 minutes. It just went on and on. I was watching a Marvel film, basically. But I usually stay for the credits. I did not want to because I was afraid that the aggressively laughing lady was going to ask me, hey, what'd you think?
Have you ever gone that? Has someone ever been like, hey, what'd you think?
I just thought due to the demographic and the type of movie, they would be a lot friendlier and chattier.
Did I ever tell you about my experience? I've only had like an experience where someone actually like sat and talked to me.
Okay.
So I went to go see Far From the Madding Crowd. I think this was in like 2015 now. I sat down for the movie in Lincoln. And I was like, I just wanted to go see a movie. This was one of the movies that was out. And empty theater. All alone. 5 minutes before the previews have ended, an old lady comes up and sits right next to me, all the way in the back row.
Oh, no.
This is when I used to sit in the back row. And I was like, okay. And she's getting up every row she gets closer to me. Then she sits directly next to me. And I'm like, there's an empty theater here, and you're sitting right next to me. There's no assigned seating. She's just sitting right next to me. And then right as the movie's starting, her paramour, her beau, her old man,
a young Martin Starr.
Yes, definitely. He comes coughing in and he sits right next to me, and then she just starts talking to me like we're best friends, and she's like, "Oh, what do you think the movie's about?" And I'm like, "What do I think the movie's about? I'm gonna find out." What are you talking? What? I was baffled at this question, and so I was like, I go into like shutdown mode when someone's like, when I don't know someone, especially back then. So I was just like, I'm just trying to watch the movie, and then she tried to like keep asking me questions throughout the movie, and at a certain point, I think she got the hint. I was like, I'm not going to talk to her, but it's just like, what are you doing?
You got to be like me, Joe, and just have this aura of like aloofness.
Well, this was 2015 me, so if this was me now, if someone actually did this and we have assigned seating, I'm like, fuck it, I'm moving my seat. I don't care. You're not talking to me. I've done it before. I've no. I am avoiding I do not want to talk to people.
You should ask them something ridiculous back. They'd be like, hey, what do you think the movie's about? And you go, oh, have you ever tried putting potatoes in your butt? And she'd be like, what?
Oh, just a non sequitur?
Yeah. Be like, oh, it's the greatest. I've got one in there right now. I've soaked it in a little gin. I hear it's a real good way to get a buzz going. I bet that'll get her to shut up.
Yeah. Just freak her out.
Yeah.
Like now, when I'm in the theater, like it's as long as it's before the theater and it's like a concession stand. I had an old lady when I went to go see Titanic a couple weeks ago. An old lady who was definitely going to see 80 for Brady because that was the big movie that day. There's a whole like throng of old ladies. They were just like all like in their big coats. And one of them kept whacking into the other person saying, hey, I'm going to pay for you. And she's like, I'm not taking your money. And then she stuffed the money in her shirt. And I'm like, what is happening? They're octogenarians.
I tell you, those Red Hat Society gals get really uppity sometimes. They don't have time to take your crap anymore.
Yeah. It's fun. It was fun. Okay. We got a long movie to discuss. Let's get into it.